workshop. Thank you, Jack. This is a Round 28 application workshop. My name is Kevin Walls. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Scottish Edge, and my primary role is making sure everybody who goes through the competition process has a great journey. Okay, my job is to make sure that everyone, all the applicants are informed, everyone knows what they should be doing, what the deadlines are, and part of that process is today we're going to talk you through completing your application. You may have completed it before, you may have completed it several times before for Scottish Edge, or it might be your first time, but hopefully you'll learn something new. So we want to give you the best experience of this process. My job also supports all the judges to make sure they have a great experience. But for you guys, this is about you today. How do we get you in a good place to complete a great application, to submit it before the deadline, and be confident that you've done everything you possibly can to get through this first stage of assessments. So, as I said, my name's Kevin. My colleague Jack Proctor is here helping today as well. Jack is our marketing manager, social media guru, and Jack is in the background. Jack is going to be managing the recording and also the Q&A. Now, right off the bat, when it comes to questions, we're going to cover a lot of information today, and I'm hoping that the vast majority of your questions will be answered by the end of the content. So what I'd ask you to do is listen as much as you possibly can. We should answer the majority of your questions and try and keep your questions towards the end. What we'll do is, if I go through a section that talks about a subject and at the subject, you've got a question on it at that point, if I haven't answered it then, if you just pop it in the chat. What we'll do is Jack will work through those questions as we go, and hopefully we'll have all the questions answered by the end of the 1 hour of content, and then we can open up for 30 minutes of questions over. Everyone can join in at that point. Okay, so let's get cracking. We've got some good stuff to get through for you today. I'm just going to minimize this here. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Scottish Edge. What are we? Why do we exist? We're going to talk about the categories in our competition, and eligibility around those categories. We're going to give you all the key dates, and talk about the journey you would go on should you go through first stage and semi-finals and so on and so forth. We're going to give you lots and lots of hints and tips on how to fill out the application form. I do a lot of these sessions. I do lots of face-to-face to groups, and I always say, we don't hide anything. There's no magic formula here to complete your application form. It's just taking time, answering the questions, doing it clearly and concisely. And we're going to talk you through that today. So we're going to give you everything we possibly can to help you submit the best application. Today we'll talk about the assessment process. What does that look like? We'll give you lots and lots of top tips that we've learned over the years. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end as well. Now, just about everything I'm going to talk about today is in our competition brochure. So if you haven't downloaded the competition brochure, go to our website and go into the application page, and you can find a button to download the competition brochure. Just about everything we're going to talk about is in there, but we'll give you some extra stuff today as well. So as part of your process, if you've never done Edge before, I want you to download the brochure, read it through, and if we don't answer your questions today, we've got other support for you. So what is Scottish Edge? So we are recognised as Britain's biggest business funding competition. We will probably we'll probably take in 400 applications this round. And between our 3 competitions, we'll process the better part of 1,000 applications per year. No one else is doing anything on this scale. And the crazy thing is that Scottish Edge are a team of 8 people. That's it. Just 8 individuals who get everybody through this process. Everyone has a great experience. And we do some great work. I'm very, very proud of the team and what they actually output. But why do we exist? So we have been in operation for over 12 years. And when we were set up, the Scottish Government actually gave Scottish Enterprise some funding, because John Swinney had gone to the States and he'd seen a competition for startups called the MASS Challenge. And the MASS Challenge was all about getting some grant funding into early stage companies to move them forward, to make them more attractive to further funders. So what we recognised in Scotland was, at that time in 2011 and 2012, there was a gap in the market for early stage companies like yourself, and it still exists today. So those companies that are very early stages, maybe pre-trading, early stage trading, they they're too high risk for banks and are too early for investment. So Edge was created to get £50,000 grants into these businesses to move them forward and then to get them on the table for investment and for bank support. So we have been doing this for over 12 years, and I'll give you some of the stats in a second. So we are open to all sectors, all geographies. So some competitions can be sector agnostic. We're not. We'll look at any sector. We'll talk about what does good look like when it comes to each of our categories soon in terms of sectors, but any sector, any industry can apply to Scottish Edge. When you go through the Scottish Edge process, at every stage of your application, you always get detailed constructive feedback. So one of the things we work really hard to make sure that when you go through the process and you complete your application, do your video and submit it, you've done a lot of work. So we don't want that to be for nothing. So all our assessors have all been trained on giving key constructive feedback at every stage. Whether you're successful each round or not, you still get detailed feedback. And that's points where you can improve on for the next stage of your journey, whether that's with Edge or without Edge. So everyone's going to get detailed feedback. If you become a Scottish Edge winner, you get a support network so we get access to support from our relationship managers and other partner providers. And we also open up a large Scottish Edge network for you as well. And we're also flexible funders. So if you're coming in for the Social Edge or the main Scottish Edge award, then there's loans attached to that, and we're super flexible how we support our businesses with those loans. Then we can cover more on that later. But our founding kind of supporters have always been Royal Bank of Scotland, the Hunter Foundation, Scottish Government, and Scottish Enterprise, and that remains to this day. So for all these years, these same four organisations have continued to support Scottish Edge on our mission. So what have we achieved? We've dealt with over 6,500 applications. And that number is going up exponentially every year because we now do, we're seeing probably close to 1,000 applications a year, so that will massively go up. We have supported over 700 businesses with 32 million in funding, and our winners cover all corners of Scotland. So the competition categories for our competition, the Scottish Edge category is the main competition category. So that's the majority of our applications will come in for that, and that's up to a typical £100,000 award. Now, as you can see on the slide here, it says up to 200,000. That's because for the first time ever, we've got one award at 200,000, but the majority of the awards in this category will be £100,000, and that will be split with 30% grant and 70% loan. So if you're applying for £100,000 and you secure that, bear in mind that £70,000 of that will be loans, and we'll talk more about loans later. To be eligible for Scottish Edge category, you must be a registered business entity. So that's a limited company, a social enterprise, you can be a KIC, and you can be a charity. The reason why you have to be a registered entity is because the loan element of any award has to sit against a registered entity. It cannot sit against a sole trader because it's a loan. If you're coming in for the Social Edge category, so that must be an asset-locked social enterprise. And what asset-locked means is that everything to do with that business stays with the business. So nothing can be sold off, nothing can be broken up. If the founder leaves, then everything that's been created stays with the social enterprise. And that must be in your articles of association as well. If you're applying for Social Edge, you can apply for up to £75,000, but that split is reversed. So it's 70% grant and 30% loan. So the loan ratio is different for Social Edge, and it's specifically built that way because our funders at People's Postcode Lottery want to take the debt burden off of the Social Edge winner. So they agreed to flip that around. So you get more grant, less loan in the Social Edge category. If you're applying to Young Edge, the founder, or at least one of the founders of the business, must be age 30 or younger at time of applying. They can be a registered business, a limited company, social enterprise, KIC or charity, but they can also be a sole trader or a partnership. And that's because the awards are only up to £15,000 and it's grant only. So we can pay a grant to a sole trader or a partnership, so it doesn't have to be a limited company, but the only stipulation is for all of our winners, you must have a business bank account. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. It's a common thing that keeps coming up. If you're applying to Scottish Edge and you receive one of these awards, you must have a business bank account. Scottish Edge Awards cannot be paid into personal bank accounts. In the wildcard category, very similar to Young, up to £15,000 grant only, so you can be a registered business, limited, so on and so forth, but you can also be sole trader and partnership. But wildcard is for pre-trading businesses only. So the competition journey, when you come in, you will select the category you want to apply for. You can only select one of the four. You can't select more than one. You will complete your application on the portal, which we will talk about soon, and you will add your 3-minute pitch video. Again, we'll talk more about that soon. So you'll submit that application by the deadline of the 2nd of September. The expert panels that we recruit will put your application through, so they'll be assessed, and everyone will get to find out if they've been successful or not. We'll talk about the dates for that in a second. So everyone's application gets assessed and everyone's application gets detailed feedback. So if you're coming in for the Scottish Edge category, so the £100,000 kind of top awards, you'll go in this path. So if you get through first stage, you'll go to a semi-final. And in the semi-final, you'll be invited to a Zoom call with up to 11 other businesses over the day, but you'll pitch privately to 4 judges over 3 minutes and 30 minutes of questions in a closed environment. And those judges will ask you questions for that time, and after 16 minutes on screen, you will then leave the room and we'll get the next business in. So if you get through the semi-final stage, you'll then be asked to come and pitch at the live final on the 19th of November at RBS Goulburn, where you'll be pitching in front of a live audience, 4 live judges, and they'll be asking you questions for 10 minutes in that public environment. And if you secure an award from those judges, then you will be informed and invited to the awards ceremony. Now, if you're going through any other category, so if you're going through Social Edge, if you're going through Young or Wild, you take a different path. After first stage for Social, Young and Wild, if you're successful, you go straight to final. Now, for the Social Enterprise Edge final, that will be an in-person final in Edinburgh, and the finalists will get the details of the location and the venue. So that'll be an in-person where the finalists will be invited to come into a room, pitch to 4 judges. They'll ask questions for 10 minutes, and the judges on that day will choose their top Social Enterprise Edge winner. For the Young and the Wild, after first stage, you'll be invited to a Zoom online pitching session where you'll pitch in front of 4 judges for 3 minutes and you'll be asked questions for 10 minutes. And the judges on the Young and Wild finals choose their winners at the end of the day. You'll be informed and then invited to the awards ceremony. Now, we do have special category awards. These are additional accolade awards attached to funding that you may receive if you have been successful in securing a Scottish Edge Main Edge Award. These category awards are chosen by our funders and sponsors. So there's only 6 of these, but we'll generally have about 11 or 12 Main Edge winners. So you may well get an extra accolade award, and this comes with extra support from our partners. So starting at the top, Scottish Enterprise, the Future Edge Award is a special award for one of the businesses aligned with Scotland's future industries. So if you look up the Scottish Enterprise Future Industries focus, you'll see they're focusing on lots of different things like fintech, robotics, AI. There's lots of specific categories that they're focusing on. And one of our winners in one of these fields will secure £100,000 in funding. Again, it's still 30% grant and 70% loan. But that's not 100,000 on top of an Edge Award. That is your Edge Award plus the Future Edge accolade, and that can get you more support from Scottish Enterprise. We also have a Pathways Edge Award, and that's a special award for female-founded businesses. So Pathways Scotland is leading the way on this. Again, £100,000 of funding, but you'd also get a Pathways Edge recognition and some additional support. There is the STV Growth Edge Award for product-based businesses. So that will come with an Edge Award of anything up to £75,000 plus £75,000 of ad spend on STV. So STV put up 75k of ad spend to help you with your product, to create an advertisement and put it onto TV and boost it from there. We also have the Scottish Enterprise Scaling Innovation Award up to £100,000. So it's a special award for business with plans to scale their unique innovation. So it's not necessarily scaling their business, 20% year on year for the next 5 years, but scaling up their innovation. How can they scale up that unique innovation that they've got to do more good, whatever that may be, to access more customers, to solve more problems? There is a Zero Waste Scotland Circular Economy Edge, so a special award for the Scottish Edge winner who's got the strongest circular economy focus. And we've also got a brand new Accelerator Edge award. So that's up to £200,000 in funding, our biggest ever award in 12 years. And that is 30% grant and 70% loan. Now, to be eligible to apply for the Accelerator Edge, you must be a trading business and you must be able to show that last year's sales were at least £100,000. Okay, very, very important. If you're going to select, you're eligible for Accelerator Edge, up to 200,000, you must be a trading business with plans to scale, and you must be able to show that last year's sales, last financial year's sales, were at least 100k. Eligibility across all categories and all businesses. You must be pre-trading or have been trading for less than 5 years. Now, what we mean by trading and pre-trading, trading is when you start generating customer revenue. So when you start selling to customers, you start generating revenue, we class that as trading. Pre-trading, very simple. You haven't got any customers yet. You may have gotten some grants. You may have done some early trials, but you don't have any contracts. You don't have any paying customers. That's considered pre-trading. All businesses must be headquartered in Scotland or plan to headquarter in Scotland, and the founder must be resident in Scotland as well. So if you're applying for Scottish Edge and you own the majority of the business in terms of shares, you must live in Scotland. Scottish Edge exists to create businesses for Scotland, to create jobs, well-paid jobs, and to generate revenue that can pay taxes in Scotland. And we want to work with the funders who live here. So it's important that you're resident in Scotland. If you are generating sales, then your current sales must not be over £1 million a year. If last year's sales are over £1 million, I'm afraid you're not eligible for Scottish Edge, because it's widely seen that if you're generating that kind of revenue, you've went beyond the need for Scottish Edge support. You can raise up to £500,000 of equity investment, but after that, you're not eligible for Edge support. If you've raised over 250k, so if you've raised between 250 and 500, then you would be eligible for an award, but your award would be loan only. You wouldn't be eligible for any grant element. So, for example, if you come into the main Edge, you ask for 100k, you've raised 350 already in equity so far, and you did secure an award, you'd be offered a £70,000 loan. You wouldn't get the full 100k, you would get £70,000 loan. 50% of the business ownership is attributed to directors actively working in the business on a day-to-day basis. Now, that sounds really obvious, but that's really important because the majority shareholder of the business tends to be the person who builds the strategy. So we want to work with the person building that strategy who lives in Scotland. All applicants, regardless of category, must have ambitions to generate an additional £200,000 in revenue over the 3 years after an award. The exception to that could be very early stage life sciences, biosciences, very deep tech, which may take 4, 5, 6 years to get to customer generating revenue. So that is by exception, but the majority of the sectors and industries, we're looking for you to generate an additional 200k over the next 3 years across all the categories. So we have a special guest with us today. Ewan Bell is here from Zero Waste Scotland. And Ewan, I think you're here. Yeah, I can see you on the screen. I'm going to hand over to Ewan. One of the sections in our application form talks about circular economy. Okay. And we thought we'd bring in the expert to talk about that. So Ewan's going to give you a little bit of guidance on what the circular economy information is available to you, what is on the portal that you can link through to help you complete that section of the application. So let me just minimize my screen. Ewan, I'm going to hand over to you. And
perfect. Thanks, Kevin.
My slides back up. If you bear with me at 1 second. Bear with me a second, folks. It seems that Zoom has changed something and now it cannot get back to my slides. Jack, are you there?
Yes.
Can you access the slides at the moment? Because for some reason I can't get back to the slides.
Just give me 1 second.
Just until I figure out what I've done wrong. Right, Jack, I'm just going to stop sharing and go back in. Sorry about this, folks. Bear with us 1 second. Right, that's better. Let's get back in here. Okay, Jack, can you see that screen okay? Ewan, can you see that screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it fine from this
Excellent.
end.
Okay, apologies, folks. I'm going to hand over to Ewan, and Ewan, I'll control the slides for you. Over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ewan Bell, and I work at Zero Waste Scotland within the business support team. And within this presentation, I'll briefly cover what we mean by a circular economy, how businesses can embed circular economy, and last but not least, some hints and tips on how to approach the circular application question and what we're looking for in your answers. Just over to the next slide, please.
Okay, 2 6.
So what is circular economy? The circular economy is a shift in perspective as to how we think about products and materials with the aim of minimising waste and keeping products and materials in use for as long as possible. Our planet is one of limited raw materials and resources, whilst rising numbers in population and consumption and multiple other factors which we probably hear about in the news every day are placing a tremendous amount of pressure on global supply chains. For example, according to the 2025 Circularity Gap Report published by Circle Economy, the world extracts over 100 billion tonnes of raw materials annually, yet more than 90% of materials entering the economy are virgin materials and non-renewable. Additionally, material use is projected to increase by 60% by 2060 if current trends continue. This is a prime example of our current linear economy, an economic system we have followed since the Industrial Revolution, where we take, make, and waste. So to future-proof our economy, we cannot carry on this linear way of thinking, and by making a fundamental shift in the way we design products and services, the circular economy provides the solution required. So in a circular economy, economic activity is founded on the continuous circulation of products and materials. A circular economy eliminates the concept of waste and takes a regenerative approach, prioritising resource efficiency. And it's based on the following 3 principles, which we can see in the slides, which are designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use for as long as possible, and regenerating our natural systems. Just over to the next slide, please. So at Zero Waste Scotland, we have identified 9 strategies, or are commonly referred to as circular economy practices, which show how you can conduct business in a circular manner. Some are somewhat obvious, whilst others require a slight shift in how we think about products and services. So the first model, which is circular design, focuses on taking a circular mindset from the very beginning and at the core of its design, as is in the name. So we're thinking, is the product easily repaired, or can it be constructed in a modular way to make it easier to replace parts or add on future modifications? And can the materials be easily recycled at the end of the product's useful life? So how are we really demonstrating that a product is designed in a way that makes circular economy easier to embed? Secondly, resource recovery. This is taking your own or another waste or byproduct and turning it into something else. For example, turning brewery remnants into a cracker ingredient or utilising construction waste and bricks. And then enabling technology. enabling technologies which relates to new tools and systems that aid the transition to a circular economy. For example, advanced robotics, which aid recycling, RFID tagging that allows tracking of reusables, such as reusable cups or cutlery, or sharing platforms that enable the circulation of surplus foods or products. Products as a service or / leasing, these are similar approaches that require us to think differently about ownership. Within these models, the business retains ownership of the product and instead sells the service of the product to the individual or allows them to lease it for a specific period of time. A really good example of this, which I like and I think is as easy as possible to explain, is hiring a kilt for a wedding, if any of us have went through that process, or renting an appliance such as a carpet cleaner. Remanufacturing is fairly simple. This is the dismantling and refurbishment of a product to match or exceed the quality of the original. This extends the useful life of a product by, instead of having to go out and buy new, you're refurbishing the product that you've already got. And reuse is using products for as long as possible in their original form. For example, reusable cup schemes, second-hand markets, or embedded returnable packaging. And repair, which is simply extending the life of a product by maintaining or fixing, however, clearly relates back to product design and whether the product is repairable. And last but not least, the sharing economy. An example of this is tool libraries, where products can be accessed easily and cheaply by multiple users, or peer-to-peer sharing networks across communities. And just go over to the next slide, please. So this is the juicy bit, which is some tips on how to approach the circular application question. So we can see the question at the top of the slide there, which is, have you built circular practices into your business offering? If so, what key activities or processes demonstrate your circularity? So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Kevin, but I think it is only around 100 words. So you're not going to be able to go into loads of detail within the question section. But of course, if you are applying for the Circular Edge Award, you're going to be thinking about how these points relate back in your wider application as well. So we want you to provide detail on your existing or proposed circular practice. Which of the 9 circular practices does it relate to, and how does it function on a practical level? How have you embedded or intend to embed the solution into the business to ensure its success? How is it going to be communicated to customers, employees? Is it going to be built into policies? How might it be embedded within the supply chain, etc.? What are the realised or anticipated savings associated with this approach? So are there going to be carbon savings, waste or packaging savings, or water or energy? These don't need to be exact. Estimates are fine, and we're not expecting a full carbon assessment. Really just focusing on what metrics you think will be impacted positively by this solution. And have you received any external support or created any partnerships to help make this solution become a reality? Have you secured a solution from a like-minded business to help you develop your idea, or have you received support from advice agencies such as Zero Waste Scotland or other environmental organisations or consultancies? And how long has this solution been embedded into the business? And if it is not yet operational, what are your anticipated timeframes? So those are the main points for the question. And then just on my last slide, there's a link to some further information regarding circular economy for business, which can be found at www.zerowastescotland.org.uk/business. Thank you very much. Back over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Ewan, and apologies for the technical issues there. I think you were looking at my ugly face for half of those slides, so forgive me, Ewan. I'm blaming Zoom for updating everything and not telling people. But thank you for that. Some really important information in there, because it's one of the most common things we get asked. And the key thing about circular economy and all the impact section, which we'll talk about soon, people look at this and think, I'm just starting out. How can I possibly do anything around circular economy? Now, the judges are not expecting to have a full circular economy business plan, but they want you to be able to think about, as you build the foundations of your business, how do you think about these things? How do you think about building in some basic functionality or thought process so that when your business grows, you'll have some of these elements within your business, whether it be circular, whether it be net zero, whether it be impact, whatever they may be. But you think about them now, because it's really difficult to build your business for 5 years and then think, all right, okay, I now need to kind of go back and add some circular economy into my thinking. Do it now, even if it's not, a practical output, but think about how you're going to hopefully have impact in the future. Ewan, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. I know you've got to jump off, but if there's any questions on the circular element that we can't answer, we'll come back to you directly, Ewan. So thank you very much for your time today and appreciate you joining us.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Ewan. Take care. Okay, let's move on with some more key information. I am not going to mess about with the layout because I'll end up upside down on your screen and making you feel sick. So let's just crack on with what we've got. I'm sure you can all still see these screens, see the dates. So we're now on to the dates for the competition itself. So as you know, maybe you don't know, we opened for applications on the 5th of August. So we're open for applications now, and we will close on the 2nd of September at 2 p.m. Not 2:01, not 2:02. If your application is not submitted by 2 p.m., you will not be entering the competition. Now, we do a 4-week window for this competition. And history tells me, after 8 years with Scottish Edge and 3 years of doing this job, that the majority of people leave their application to the last minute. And I'm going to give you the same advice as I give every single round. Don't leave it to the last minute. Anything could go wrong, and there's no guarantee we'll be able to help fix your problems on the last day, on the 2nd of September, if you've got issues. My advice for this 4-week window is very simple. Get on the portal as soon as possible. Familiarise yourself with questions and what you need to find out, what you need to answer. Get answering it. We'll talk about the process of answering in a second. Once you're happy with your application, you've completed all the sections, you've ticked all the boxes, you've got your video, submit it. The one piece of advice I'll give you here is don't keep going back in and editing and editing and editing and editing. Because I guarantee what you're going to do is you're going to go in and read your value proposition and you're going to see something and you're going to tweak it. And then you're going to go into your team section and tweak that. And then you're going to go into your impact section and change that. And before you know it, that nice clean narrative that you had across your application form is gone because you keep changing things and it doesn't quite join up. So once you're happy with your application, you've got all the content you want, that's it. Press submit, forget about it. Whether that's tomorrow, whether that's next week, whether that's 2 days before the deadline, whenever it happens, get it in as soon as possible. Get it off your desk and just put it out your mind. Once it's submitted, that's it. As long as you're happy with the content, just get it in. As I said, don't leave it to the last minute because we can tell the applications that have been just rushed on the 2nd of September, and 99 times out of 100, they don't even get through first stage. So don't waste your time. Don't start an application on the 2nd of September. Start it now. If you haven't started it already, familiarise yourself with the content because there's quite a lot of work. So once you submit your application before the 2nd, you will hear by the 23rd of September if you've been successful in going through to the next stage, and you'll hear via an email. And that email will either have the results, it will have your results, whether you've been successful or not. It'll have feedback. And if you've been successful, it'll have details of what your next stage is. If you've not been successful, it'll have details of other support organisations. Now, just for context here, we will get circa 400 applications. We will be taking 100 applications through to the next stage. Okay, so it's a very, very tough competition. Don't let yourself down with a poor application. Take the time, complete it, and compete. We want the 100 best, so the judges will be choosing the 100 best to get through to the next stage. If you go through the Scottish Edge application, Scottish Edge main category, and you're successful at first stage, you're invited to one of the semi-finals. The dates are here, dates are on the website. They're all very clear. You're invited to one of these dates. If you go through Young Edge and you're successful, you'll be invited to the 28th or 29th of October for a final. Wildcard will be in the 4th and the 5th of November. Social Enterprise Edge is the 10th of November, and that's in-house. Sorry, that's in person in a physical location in Edinburgh. And then if you get through the semi-final of Scottish Edge, you're invited to the final. That's the 19th of November. These dates are non-negotiable. If you're selected for a date, that's the date you have to attend. We've got very little wriggle room to move people around different dates. So if you are selected for one of these dates, please make sure you are available because you won't be given an alternative date. And at the bottom of the screen, if you're successful at the Scottish Edge final on the 19th of November, all the winners across all categories will be invited to the award ceremony in Edinburgh on the 26th of November, where we all celebrate the winners. You all get your trophies, you get your picture taken, we all have a meal together, and we have a celebration evening. So, if you haven't looked at the portal already, go into the Scottish Edge application, Scottish Edge page, go into the application. You've already registered for this workshop, which is great, and everyone who has registered will get a recording. You can clearly see on the homepage more information and apply. And at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a link to Edgeword. Edgeword is our conversational AI chat team member who can answer 99.9% of your questions. We've been developing over the last few years, and he's gotten more and more accurate. He's getting better and better. So you can ask Edgeword anything. So if you come off of this call and you think, damn, I meant to ask a question, jump on the website, ask Edgeword, he'll give you an answer. And if he can't answer it, you can always email info@scottishedge.com. When you register for the portal, the screen will look like this, either a new applicant or you've already registered for a previous application. And on the application page itself, this slide is quite busy, so forgive me, I'm only going to pick out a few things, but there's lots and lots of information on how to go through your process. It talks about how do you complete your application. You can review and print your application. And this section here is the most important. You'll be completing 8 sections of the application after you've filled in all your company details. You'll be completing a section on funding, value prop, team, impact, customer focus, business growth, use of funding, and then attachments. You can add attachments if it's absolutely necessary, but we generally recommend not to add attachments. So you complete the sections, tick the boxes. Now you'll notice here that the funding section is green. That's because it's been completed and the checkbox at the bottom has been ticked to say funding section is now complete. The white sections haven't been started, and the orange section of use of funding has been started but not completed. So that's just a little visual tool that you can go in and say, right, where am I with my application? Because you can do a section, save it, go away and come back. You don't have to sit and complete it end to end. You can do a section at a time, save it, go away, come back a day or two later, whatever it's going to be, gather information, input your information. Okay, so that's just a wee visual guide. You'll also put your video link in here, and we'll talk about videos soon, and your video link password. Again, we are really strict on confidentiality. You don't really need a video link password. Sometimes it causes more issues than it actually solves. I'd recommend not to. Your video only gets shared with the Scottish Edge team and our judges, who are all covered by confidentiality agreements. So, if you really have to put a password in, you can. I would definitely recommend not. One of the key sections of the application is around financials. So let's just talk a little bit more around how do you complete good financials. Make sure when you start your application, you select the correct trading or pre-trading status for your business. Okay. So right at the very start of the process, you'll be asked, are you a trading or a pre-trading business? Because that will determine what your form looks like in terms of how you fill this in. Again, just to reiterate, if you come into the portal today and you're trading as in generating customer revenue, you're clearly a trading business. If you come in to start an application and you have no paying customers, chances are you're a pre-trading business. You're not generating any external revenue. You might have some grant funding, but you don't have any commercial contracts. You're not generating customer revenue. You're a pre-trading business. Make sure you select the correct button because it determines what happens to your questions after that. The judges want to see ambitious but achievable sales, profit and job projections. Don't be putting down 15, 20 million in year 3 unless you've got a very, very good reason for that. The judges are not interested in hockey stick numbers. That doesn't impress them. What impresses them is good financial details backed up by good assumptions. So this is an example here of a B2B channel. So over years 1, 2, and 3, how many customers you're going to serve, the units served per customer, average price, total revenue, and gross margin. And there's a section underneath your numbers where you can put that in and just bullet point it very, very simply. What is behind your numbers? Because in your projections, you'll put in your sales, you'll put in your job creation, and you'll put in your net profit. So this can explain it in the breakdown section. Don't forget to break down your costs as well. That's really, really important because there's a lot of hidden costs that you may well miss. And be realistic about your net profit and loss. You know, you might not make money for the next 3 years. You might show a moderate profit, or you might show a good profit. That's absolutely fine. But make sure your numbers stack up. And in the section below the financial projections, make sure you detail your costs as well. Back up your figures with clear and credible assumptions, okay? So statements, so customer growth, for example, customer growth picks up monthly as we progress through year 2 due to increased brand awareness and online presence. So you're giving them context as to why your monthly growth is as you say it's going to be. Or you could say average selling price will be reduced to allow us to gain volume, although this can increase again as the brand becomes more recognized. These are just examples of how you can put clear assumptions behind your numbers. Final few points. So businesses must estimate their turnover, profit and job creation over a 3-year period on the application form. Now, what's really, really important is you select the correct date for your current trading period. Because when you select the correct date for your current trading period, it determines year 1, 2, and 3. So year 1 will effectively be, that should be financial year 26 to 27. Or if your financial year ends in December, it could be 27, 28. When it's selecting your current trading, if you're a trading business, is very, very important. If you're pre-trading, you might not plan to start trading until 2028, and that's okay. So your first year will start from 28, year 2 will be 29, year 3 will be 30, okay? So just make sure you understand what figures you're putting in there for your next 3 years, because the judges want to see 3 years after an award. There's a common mistake that gets made that when you put in the wrong date for your current trading period, what that does, it auto-populates the dates and it gives you, so for example, I saw one, they started trading in 2023 and they put that in as a current trading period and it pulled through into year 1, 24, year 2 was 25 and year 3 was 26. That's not future, that's actually past data. So be very careful, make sure when you select that button, you double check the years are correct because the judges want to see it after an award. So they want to see 27, 28, 29 approximately. That's the kind of date range they want to see. What is the sales and job creation 3 years after the award? If your application gets through first stage for the Scottish Edge and Social Edge categories, you'll be asked to produce a 12-month cash flow, but we give you a document to complete. Very, very simple document. And the reason why we ask for that is because if you're successful with an award, there's a loan element, so we want to check for financial viability. Awards are paid in 2 tranches. Each tranche is 50% of the total funding. That is for Scottish Edge and for Social. For the Youngs and Wilds, they're actually paid 75-25, okay? But all awards are in 2 tranches. And the second tranche is paid on evidence of spend against actual milestones. Okay, so in terms of loan repayments, again, one of our most common questions. Scottish Edge Awards, if you get 100k, 70,000 loan, 30,000 grant. Now, each tranche of the Scottish Edge category award, each tranche will be 50% of your total. So if you get 100k, your first tranche will be 50k, and that will be made up of 35,000 loan, £15,000 grant, and that's the same for tranche 2. Similar for the Social Edge, if you get 75, it's broken up into 2 50% tranches, each with loan, each with grant. Loans are repayable start of month 1 after your first tranche is paid. So there's no deferring loan repayments. There are no options for repayment holidays. Okay, so think about how you're going to fund this business. If you're applying for Edge and you know it's coming with a loan, how are you going to finance that? How are you going to service that loan? For the 100,000 award, it was 70,000 loans. Monthly repayments are round about £729 per month. That's a 9.7% APR is the current rate. So if you have 100k, you draw down your first 50, 729 a month, and then you draw down your second tranche, you could be paying back £1,458 a month to Edge. So bear this in mind when you're selecting a category you want to apply for. If you're going to take on a loan and you are successful, how would you service that debt? So it's a 5% fixed rate and it equates to approximately 9.5, 9.7% APR. It's a maximum of 5-year repayment term, so 60 months. The loans have to be repaid. A reduced repayment period may be available for pre-trading businesses by exception. So if you're 5 years from trading and you are successful in securing an award, speak to your relationship manager that's allocated and discuss how much you can afford to pay. But something would have to be paid on a monthly basis. All payments will be made on the 28th of the month, and interest will be accrue to the date of repayment. So if you take Scottish Edge and you get a loan, and in 3 years' time you're super successful and you want to clear your loan, you only pay interest up until the point in which you clear it off. We don't charge you the full 5 years of interest. You're not penalised. You can clear it off at any time, and you only pay interest up to the point where you clear it off. And we don't take personal guarantees or any other form of security. So we're very flexible. We'll talk about the flexible funder. We can talk about repayment amounts, and we don't take personal guarantees. The loan sits as the responsibility of the limited company or whatever the business entity is. So moving on, the next important part of your application will be your pitch. So if you've never done a pitch video before, we want you just to tell your story in 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes it tends to be a good amount of time to get enough information across. And your application form and video form a complete package of assessment. So what happens is the judges tend to watch your 3-minute pitch video. That gives them a good overview of what the business is all about. It gets to see the entrepreneur, gets to see the solution, gets to see what are the key headings behind this business, and then they dive into the application to get more detail. This is a suggested structure of what you put in your pitch. You don't have to use a structure. You can use any layout you want, but this is to visualize what headings, what information should I potentially put in my pitch to give the judges assessing an overview of what the business is and what it's trying to achieve. So you start off with an introduction or a hook of some kind, and you might introduce yourself or why you're doing this. You'll talk about the problem you're trying to solve or whatever it is you're trying to do differently, your USP. You'll talk about your solution, so your product or service, whatever that is. You could talk about your market size and revenue model. You could talk about the competition. You could talk about risk for your business. You could talk about a team. You could talk about traction. What have you achieved to date before coming to Edge? And have a clear ask. If you're applying for £100,000, why is now the time? What difference would it make to your business if you secured it? And generally in 3 minutes, you can get across about 450 words. So speaking at the volume I'm speaking at the pace I'm speaking at the moment, you'll probably get about 450 words in there. So this is a rough barometer. Use that 3 minutes well. Don't submit 5-minute videos because it won't get watched. Don't submit 10-minute videos because it definitely won't get watched. You can go 3 minutes 5, 3 minutes 10, 20. That is okay. But don't go over 3 minutes 30. Don't go towards 4, 5, and 6 minutes. The judges have got enough to do. You can say enough in 3 minutes. And don't just send in a promo video. So the judges don't want to see just an advert. They don't want to see a promo video that you've created for something else and just lump that into your application. They want to see the founder talking to camera, explaining what this business is, what the key headlines are, and why they're coming to Edge. So don't recycle some old video content you've got because it doesn't match up your application and it doesn't add any value. So we're not looking for, Spielberg production here. You can put your phone on your desk, you can talk to your phone for 3 minutes, and that's fine. You can add slides in if you want. You can have visuals. You can hold your product up to the camera, but keep it nice and simple. The most important thing, judges want to see the founder or the team behind this. They want to hear these key headings to give them an overview of the application and then they can dive into the application. If the video does not relate or resemble the application in any way, shape, or form, it adds no value. The assessment criteria the judges will be assessing on. If you've been into the application form already, you'll recognise this, because the 6 key areas of the application are the 6 key areas of assessment. So that's the value prop, the team, the impact, customer focus, business growth, and use of funds. Now, we recruit assessors from all over Scotland, and we have been doing for 12 years, and we bring in judges from all parts of the business ecosystem, and they independently assess your application and make decisions and give you feedback. But the assessors are given the form and the video to work together. So it's really important that you spend quality time in your video just to make sure it's clear. You're given an overview of the form, an overview of the business, so both the form and the video tie in together. And all our assessors sign confidentiality agreements. And in all my, in 12 years of Scottish Edge, we've never had a breach of confidentiality. So whatever you put in that video, whatever you put in that application form is completely covered by confidentiality. So when you look at the value proposition section, it's very clear. We just ask you to answer the questions in each of the boxes clearly and articulately, very concisely. So in the value proposition, is the product or service clearly articulated? Is there a good awareness? Is there a clear USP? Team, where's the team at with experience? What experience you need to recruit? Impact. One of the most commonly asked questions around impact is, how can I possibly talk about circular economy, net zero, and all these things? I'm only a startup. As we talked about before, don't skip over the impact section. Don't leave sections blank. Take your time, form some words, put your thoughts down there about what you hope the business to be if you're very, very early stage trading, what you hope to achieve in future in that impact section. Customer focus, one of the number one most important sections of your application. There's no point in having a great value proposition. There's no point in having a great solution if you haven't actually engaged with your customers. So who's your target customer base? How have you engaged with them? What have you asked them? What have you learned? How many people have you spoken to? Is a product market fit? Make that very, very clear. The business growth section, we talked about a little bit about that. What is your growth strategy? What is the assumptions behind your growth strategy for those 3 years? And your use of funding. So judges want to see if the use of funding will actually move this forward, move this business forward enough to get to the next stage. So what are the judges looking for then? So when it comes to the main Edge category, I've broken this down into the Scottish Edge category, the wildcard, the young, and the social. So the main Edge category, the judges are looking for team expertise. If you're asking for 100,000 or even up to 200,000 for the Accelerator Edge, they want to see a strong team in place already. So you get expertise in there in the field, but you've also got expertise in there around finance, strategy, tech, if it's a tech business, but relevant sector experience must be in place at that time. Now, if you're a trading business and you're coming in for the Accelerator Edge at 200k, that's a given. You must have all that in place. You must have all your ducks aligned. But you might be a £100,000 Scottish Edge and you've got some of the expertise, but you've got a clear plan as to how you're going to fill the gaps. Customer validation is a must. Again, how many customers have you spoken to? What have you learned? Is a clear product market fit? That type of thing. It's got to be very strong. Robust financial and business models. Very, very clear on this. If you're coming in for that 100k, you have to have robust financials and your business model has been very clear. How do you generate revenue? Who's your paying customers? How do you make money from this? You must show job creation. So well-paid jobs over the next 3 years. There's no set number, but show that you plan to bring in new jobs to Scotland, and that's in your 3-year projections. For the main Edge category, again, you want to look at potential global reach. So whether that's, you want to expand in the UK borders or further afield, we want to see ambitious growth potential. We want to see impact of so the judges want to see the impact of the funding. So they want to see how would 100,000 make a difference to this business at this time? Is it really going to move it forward? Is it going to get it towards investment? Is it going to get it towards future funding? They want to see that the funder behind the business is the ideal funder at this place. And what I mean by that is the funder the founder who's applying is very honest about their skills and experience, and if they're going to be the strategy leader of this business in 3 to 5 years' time. Because some people start a business and then decide, actually, I want to be the CTO and I'm going to bring in a CEO. That's absolutely fine. But be very clear, the founder at a time, is that your future founder, or are you planning on replacing with somebody with a different skill set? And the judges want to see potential for impact. That impact section, again, very, very important. Societal, economic impact. What does that look like? For Wildcard, up to £15,000 grant. Key thing is innovation. Highly innovative. The judges are looking for something that's got a wow factor, never been seen before, or you've never seen it getting done like this before. It's all about innovation, pre-trading, very early stage innovation. But you must have a market opportunity. You must have done sufficient market research to show that there is a market opportunity for this. If you can get it from TRL level 2 up to product, up to market readiness, whatever that may be. Customer validation, again, the same in every single section. Even if you're pre-trading, you must show that there's a customer segment there and you've validated it. Team expertise. At the wildcard stage, you might have some expertise in your current field and you may have lots of gaps, and that's okay. But you want to talk about how you're going to fill those gaps in future. And that might take you 1, 2, or 3 years to fill those gaps, but that's okay. Because we realise you're very early stage. You might have some knowledge and expertise, but you won't have everything, and that's recognised by the judges. Again, impact potential. You hope to generate revenue and create jobs in the next 3 years. They want to see you must be a pre-trading business for Wildcard, because that's what it's designed to support. But be beyond the concept stage. So this is more than just TRL level 1 on a piece of paper. You've actually spoken to customers, you've got some validation, you've done some kind of testing, validation of some kind, and you're ready to start building the prototype, you're ready for more customer validation, and you need that funding to do that, whatever that looks like. But beyond concept. So beyond concept, you've spoken to customers, you've done some due diligence, you've done some research, and you know there's a market for it. For the young edge category, tend to be early stage trading businesses. So young edge category, most of the same with the main edge category. However, the judges do take into consideration the age of the founder, the experience of the founder and the team, and they're only looking for a foundational business plan. So you may have some revenue, but you're not quite there yet in your overall business plan going forward. That's okay. It's a young edge award. It's a £15,000 grant. And it's a stepping stone for a future award. So they're very conscious of the fact that they're not expected to see a whole belt and braces business plan. And there may be some gaps in the team, and that's okay. And in terms of funding impact, they're realistic about how much impact £15,000 can actually make as well. So it's taken into account the size of the award that you're asking for and the age and stage of the founder and the business. The judges consider that when they're making their decisions. For the social edge category, again, most of the same as the main edge, but it's far more impact focused. So that's societal impact, environmental impact, how does it impact people, how does it impact planet? That's what the social edge is designed to do. But must be commercially sustainable. You must show a model in the social edge category that says if you secure £75,000, you will either become commercially sustainable or you already are. So you're not grant reliant and you have a business model that can generate revenue, generate profit, and that profit is reinvested to do more good. Okay? Commercially sustainable social edge category. You must show traction, what we achieved so far, and you could be a pre-trading social enterprise, that's okay, but you've got some traction of some kind, whether that's testing, validation, or even paying customers. But you must have a strong team. For the social edge category, strong team who are values driven, and when the gaps are identified, they're clearly identified in the form. So some top tips. I think we're just about on track. Time is your biggest challenge from here. I'm going to go back to the application window again, because I say the same thing at application workshops every single round, and the same thing happens every single round. Don't leave it to the last minute. Get your application completed and in as early as possible. So in round, even though that says Edge 27 at the bottom, we're now in Edge 28. In round 27, last round, I had 3 people contact me on a closing day and they couldn't access the portal because they'd forgotten their passwords and something was going wrong and they were in a panic. Now, we managed to get all 3 on, but all 3 didn't get through the first stage. because they'd left it to the last day. There was blank sections all over their application form, and there wasn't enough information for judges to make an informed decision. So we've given you plenty of word count in your application. We're giving you 4 weeks to complete it. So don't think you can just rock up at the last minute and fire in an application. Remember, we could get 400 applications and the top 100 go through. So if you're going to come in, if you're going to spend that time completing an application, dedicate the time to it. Make sure you give yourself the best opportunity to shine, and complete the best application you can. When you're submitting your application, make it easy for the assessors to understand what you do, and don't leave them with unanswered questions. We've tried to write the application form as simple as possible. If you answer the questions that we give you within the word count, clearly and concisely with no jargon, so that anybody can understand your answers, you're giving the judges what they need to make an informed decision. Be aware of the assessment criteria and what the judges are looking for. We've already talked about that. Make sure your point of difference or USP is very clear, and you can show your strong competitor analysis. So you know who you're competing against, either directly or indirectly, and you've broken that down. Be realistic about your financials, and use the guidance on clear numbers as we've given you, and there's more in the brochure. Talk about your real customer engagement, not just stats. So don't just show stats that you pulled off of ChatGPT or Google. You talk about the customers you've actually spoken to. What conversations have you had? What have you learned? What will you spend the money on? So simplify your spend breakdown to make it clear to judges that if you score 100,000, you're going to spend 50k on this, 20k on that, whatever that may be. Break it down so judges can see. Consider your impact intentions. Again, how are you going to impact society with this award and growing your business? You can print or download a copy of your application if you wish. Please double check your form before you submit it, and don't leave any sections blank. And finally, don't use AI to write your application. We'll talk about AI usage in a second, but a broad brush approach here. Don't just stick the questions into AI and get them to answer the questions for you based on a synopsis of your business, because it's becoming more and more evident the sections are actually written by AI with the telltale traces laid behind. Now, I'll be absolutely clear and honest with you. There is no software that can prove that an application has been written by AI. No one's got it yet. It doesn't exist. But we're building a relationship and trust here. When you apply to Scottish Edge, we want to see your words. We want to see your story in your video, in your application. So we'll talk about AI a little bit more in a second. So pitch video, again, we're not looking for Hollywood production. They want to see the entrepreneur behind this. Why are you passionate about this? Why do you believe it's going to work? Showcase your product or service, and don't leave the panel asking, what is this and what do you do? You can involve your team or even your customers if you wanted in those 3 minutes. We talked about the quality, do it on your phone if you want, nice and simple. The judges want to hear from you. Be natural and engaging. You can use notes if you want, that's absolutely fine, but it's your story. Tell it in 3 minutes. Your application form and video make up your combined submission. So spend quality time in your video, make sure it matches your application, it all makes sense. And when you're submitting your video, ideally submit it via YouTube. Mark it as unlisted, and there's a guide on how to do that on our website when you're uploading it. Make sure you watch your video back before you submit it. So there's a great example of poor quality. In fact, there's lots of examples of poor quality videos we get that are just either they don't play, they're unwatchable, or you can't hear anything. And a classic example is someone recorded a video on their phone walking down the high street in Aberdeen with a phone at the end of their arm on a windy day, and all you could hear was wind. You can see someone speaking, but you couldn't actually hear anything. And that person submitted that video. Don't do that. No value whatsoever. Watch your video back before you submit it. Make sure it's clear. Make sure you're happy with it. If you secure Scottish Edge, not only do you get feedback, there's more to the journey, but be aware that over 50% of our winners have won the second, third or fourth application. This is a tough competition, so be prepared. If you do secure an Edge Award, you get access to a support package from our partners, Harper McLeod, John Carmichael, James Hallam, and there's a whole raft of other partners we've got for recruitment, for IP, lots of different partners you can access. You join the Edge alumni of over 700 businesses, and you can get a dedicated relationship manager if required. Again, if you want any additional questions answered that we don't cover today, chat to Edward, start a call. It's a conversation, it's not a typed chat bot. Start a conversation and you can scan that QR code to bring Edward up on your phone right now if you want. Now, a couple of quick additional things for neurodiverse clients, so anyone with a neurodivergent condition. There is additional support. If you've got a diagnosed condition, you can go through Access to Work, and Business Gateway through the Access to Work has got a legal obligation to help you with your application. So if you want to contact a Business Gateway advisor or go through the Access to Work website, you can actually get some support for completing your application and completing your video. And you can get friends and family to help you with your application as well. That's absolutely fine. So Business Gateway, you can go to their website, contact the local office, explain that you might need some support with your application, and they'll do everything they can to help you get through that. Your advisor cannot do the application for you because the information has to come from you. And this brings us on to the use of AI. So we don't want you to use AI to write your application, but you can use AI tools to help you break it down into manageable chunks. Okay, that's absolutely fine. So if you use AI to do a bit of research or form some words that you're struggling to form, that's okay. But you then have to type it in your own language. Don't just take AI's, you read the AI comments or you read the AI words, and it's very obvious at times it's been written in such a cold, humanless way. We want to hear your story. So you can take the bones of what AI has created for you and say, right, I'm going to use that bit, that bit, and that bit, and then type it in your own words. It's very clear when you read applications, someone who's actually written it from their own perspective, as opposed to copying and pasting from AI. Don't copy and paste from AI. Use your own words. You can use the tools to help you break down the larger tasks into smaller ones. You can use it to help, summarize, spell check, sense check, all that type of stuff. That's absolutely fine. But when it comes to actually writing it in the application, it's your words. So you must be able to explain your thinking behind what you say in the application. So if it's not your language and you get asked questions on it, you may struggle to answer the questions. If you're using AI, this sounds very basic now, switch off tracking, keep your information confidential as best as you can. But judges want to hear your words, so AI can help you with research and edit, but the final application must be yours. You're expected to explain all parts of your business plan. So again, if you've got AI to write it and you don't understand it, you're going to struggle to answer the questions. You can get help from a friend or supporter. We can give you extra thinking time during a presentation if required. If you do get through to the next stage finals and next stage pitching sessions, we can talk about that. We make sure at those sessions we only ask one question at a time. You can have someone to support you at a future pitch as well. And then you can see some previous events on our YouTube channel and on our website as well. Now, we can make reasonable accommodations as best we can. What we can't do, we cannot write your application for you. You cannot skip part of the application process. So you must complete the video, you must complete the form. We can't guarantee everything you ask for will be possible. We're only a team of 8 people, and we cannot extend deadlines. Because it's such a tight timeline to process so many applications and get them in front of judges, we cannot change any deadlines, I'm afraid. So, this is our wonderful team. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to see if Jack is available to talk about questions and where we are at. So we are now at 1 hour 12. Well, we started a little bit late. Jack, how are we getting on with questions?
Yep, so lots of great questions came in. I think we've gotten most of them, so just a few. Apologies, I'm working remotely just now, so if any noise comes through, apologies for that. So I think one that a couple of people asked, and I can't for the life of me remember the answer. Young Edge, do all directors have to be under the age of 30, or is it okay if just one is under the age of 30?
Yeah, it's okay if you get 2 or 3 directors and one is under 30, that's okay.
Yeah, I thought that was the case. So just we have one from Lisa. She works for Circular Glasgow team at Glasgow City Chamber of Commerce. So she's asking, we support a wide range of businesses to scale their circular business models. We're considering collaborating with one of them to apply in one of 2 categories. But are we eligible, or does the application need to come from the business? So I don't know if that's, I wasn't too sure the wording on that, if they were kind of working as a collaborator or if on their behalf. If Lisa's here and wants to come on, please do.
From my interpretation there, it has to come from the business because it's a business entity that's applying for the funding.
Yeah.
But I may have misunderstood that. I'm quite happy to take that question if I've misunderstood it.
No, that's great. Thank you, Kevin. No, it's just I just wondered what if the chamber was eligible because we work in a consulting capacity for a lot of these businesses. So what I'm thinking is there's one business that I'm looking at, and I think they would need our consultancy to kind of get it to the next stage of what they're looking to do. But so it would just come from them. So that's straightforward. Thank you.
Yeah, so with that, Lisa, then you could have the business complete the application looking for funding to, employ consultancy to take it to the next level.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So yeah, just a couple just come in the chat there that we'll just sort of read out rather than going back in the chat with them. So just someone asking, saying they pretty much tick the boxes for both young and wild. What would be the best to apply for?
If you're pre-trading, it's wildcard. If you're trading, it's young. It's the
Yeah.
simplest way we can break it down for you.
Yep. So another, if I've submitted an application before I have been told I can get further feedback in the next round, what is the extent of this feedback? Can
Okay,
I share my new draft? Yeah, for sure.
I'll try and interpret that, but happy for somebody to come on. So all applications at the first stage get between 6 and 8 detailed points of constructive feedback on their application. So these constructive points are pointing out areas that you could strengthen on for a future application, or if you're successful in the next round. So it's constructive between 6 and 8 points of constructive feedback.
Thank you. So for future edge, does the loan only criteria also apply to investment threshold, or is it both grant and loan?
So the investment threshold, if you've raised over 250 but less than 5, you would get the loan only, 70k. If you've raised over 500k, you're not eligible for any Edge awards at all. If you've not raised any investment or you've raised below 250k, you'd be eligible for the full 100k loan and grant.
So just a question there coming about the video uploading to YouTube, some concerns. So essentially, however you can get the video to us, YouTube's preferred because it's convenient, but as long as we can play the link, that's the main thing. So whether it's a different format, a different video host, as long as we can play the link and it's not well, we don't need password, don't need to come back to you for access, then as long as we can get it, that's what's important. I'm swithering between whether to apply for main edge or wildcard. I'm pre-trading and building an intimate food brand with a retail presence, aiming to start trading early 2027. Ultimately, my funding requirements are over 50k, so I believe main edge would be suitable, but is that possible pre-trading?
Yes, you can apply for main edge at pre-trading as well.
Are you disadvantaged applying for young edge as a pre-trading business?
No, every young founder is considered equally. You've not got any advantage if you're trading, so you can apply for pre-trading at young as well.
Any specific advice for a business moving from a Young Edge award to now the main category?
So if you've won a Young Edge award, you know the process, so you've got an advantage. You know what's involved. My advice would be reflect back on the questions you were asked by the judges. What was the feedback given at each stage? How much traction have you, how far have you moved on? And if you have secured a Young Edge award, go back and look at what you said you were going to achieve in that application and how much have you actually achieved. So for example, if you applied for Young Edge and you said you're going to achieve X, Y, and Z, and you got 10k and you did it, that's absolutely brilliant. That's what judges want to see. They want to see the impact of that Edge award has moved you forward, and now you're coming back for a main Edge award. That's it in essence. That's why Young and Wild exist. They're there for small grants to get businesses to go through, a small bit of growth and put them more ready for the Scottish Edge category.
I guess I think similar just came in from Liam, just question if you win wildcard, can you then come back for main edge, which is you just answered. So yes, you can do that. But if it doesn't happen in reverse, you can't do main edge and then come back for one of wild or young. So that's the route. That one, that's not. I tick all boxes for wildcard edge with a free trading title, but also young edge. So should I select young edge, and what categories or special category should I tick as someone who puts both wild and young as a female founder? So the thing is, the special categories are only available in the main edge. So due to the one element of that, you know, we apply for a special category if you're currently in the main edge competition. I think in regards to wild and young, I think you answered that earlier, Kev. Just if it's
Yeah, I would say if you're pre-trading generally, I mean, somebody then said, can I apply for young as a pre-trading? You can, but generally, if you're highly innovative and you're pre-trading, it's wild. And if you're trading, it's young if you're under 30.
So do wild and young both have requirements to generate 200k in revenue over 3 years?
Yes. So yes, the ideal is 200k, but the judges are realistic about what can be achieved with a £10,000 grant. But you want to have ambitions to get there and show some detailed assumptions behind it. But again, the judges will know the stage of the business you're at. They know the level of funding they're potentially putting in, and they're realistic about what you can achieve. But you want to show that you are trying to achieve 200k additional growth over the 3 years. That's not 200k a year. That's over the 3 years cumulatively.
Perfect. So I think that's all the ones in the chat. If anyone wants to turn on a mic and ask a question, please feel free to do so.
A couple of quick questions there, Jack. One about a bank account.
Yep. So does the bank account need to be in the name of the company that's applying for the grant loan?
Yes.
Okay. What support do Edge provide other than funding?
What support does Edge provide to the winners? Winners get relationship management support. They get access to the network. We can plug you into Scottish Enterprise or just about any other ecosystem player. So there's a whole raft of support that we can give you to move your business forward.
Okay, I think we're up to date. How much of the weighting for wildcard is on innovativeness versus the other assessment criteria? Is it equally weighted across different assessment areas?
For wildcard, innovation is for wildcard, innovation is the most important part of it. It has to have a wow factor. So it's got to stand out as being something new, something completely different. There's not a specific weighting, but wildcard is there for highly innovative pre-trading ideas.
Just to follow up to Jay there about the support. Yes, so Edge support is mainly for winners, just we don't have capacity to support businesses beyond that. That's more about a business gateway or Scottish Enterprise area. Will the amount requested be scaled down if judges feel that that's correct, or is it going to get rejected?
Sorry, Jack, I didn't understand that question.
Right, so essentially, if you apply for some and the judges feel you don't need that much, will it just be rejected, or will the amount be scaled down?
No, so it's a very good point. When you're thinking about how much you're applying for, apply for what you need. Don't just select 100k because you think you might get 100k. Actually think about what you need and apply for what you need that's going to move your business forward significantly to that £200,000 figure. So no, you won't be rejected, but the judges may well say there's enough in this that you don't need 100k. If we give you 70k, or you don't need 15k, we can give you £10,000, and that's still going to move you forward significantly enough. So you won't be rejected is a short answer.
And just someone asking, could you explain what's taken into account for young Edge? You mentioned age and experience. Could you explain that a bit further?
Well, if you're a young entrepreneur, and let's take a business that's got early stage trading. Let's say you make whatever it is you make. Let's just pick chocolate, just from random. You've got your own very unique chocolate brand. You're selling some chocolate. You're doing it online. If you could be an entrepreneur who's 22 years old, 25 years old. Age is irrelevant. You're under 30. You're an early stage entrepreneur. You've got a lot to learn about business, but you've got the foundations here of something to build upon. That's what the judges take into consideration. In the main edge category, when you're asking for 100k, the judges want to see a lot more robustness around the team, around the strategy, around the focus, around the assumptions, the growth. It's a different kettle of fish because you're asking for 100k. You're asking for £10,000 in Young Edge. You're very early stages. You might not have everything completely locked down, and the judges take that into consideration. But they still want to see some basic fundamentals, customer validation. You've got a plan. You've validated some of your revenue models, and you know how you're going to move forward. There's a question coming about extra documentation. Don't add any documentation. Judges have got to read 14 pages of applications and watch videos. They will not get time to read any extra documentation, so I'll make that very, very clear.
Good point. And just someone asking, can the 100k be used as part of a larger funding package that you're seeking elsewhere? Could it be exclusively just this 100k, what I'm going to do with it?
No, you can apply for Scottish Edge as part of a wider funding package. That's okay.
Great, thanks. I think we're up to date. Again, turn on your mics. Any questions? I'm pretty sure. Sorry, I'm just trying to find out the wording of that there.
I think I know what the question is going to be in that one, Jack, because I read it. So Simon, I
Right.
think you're saying you've accrued a lot of costs so far. Can you use Edge to
Yeah.
repay those costs? No, I'm afraid not. Edge is for future growth and future costs. You can't pay retrospective.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're up to date. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we're not. No, we're not yet.
One last question. This will be the last
aye.
question before we move away. So
Okay.
we're looking to raise 30k, but we are not. That dropped off, Jack. What was that question? Sorry.
Yep. So we are looking to raise 30k, but we are not great for main edge. What do you suggest on that?
Well, the
Wait,
maximum you can
yeah.
apply for in Young or Wild would be £10,000 or £15,000. So, but if you need 30k, then you could maybe win half of it at Scottish Edge and raise the other half somewhere else. But if you're not suitable for main edge, it would have to be Young or Wild. But you'd need to come up with a plan as to where the other 15 or 20 grand is going to come from.
Thank you. So if there's anything else beyond that, because we're short on time now, but if anything else comes in, please do email us at info@scottishedge.com or ask Edward on the site.
Yeah, Edward is your first port of call, and then if he doesn't give you the answer, info@scottishedge.com. Good luck, everyone. Hopefully see lots of you in the next stage, and looking forward to getting your application forms in nice and early, not the last minute. Okay, good luck, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.